All right, Ryan's Midlife Crisis Journal, day 56. Got some comments yesterday, so I think maybe I got another algo push here. I have been, it's funny. One of the comments was on my yawning, and I've noticed that because I'm not doing like thumbnails for this. I'm just picking of the options, and the YouTube likes to try and it picks 3 for you, and it's always wanted me like yawning or something. So that's the other one, the journey so far. It has been, I think I saw the most changes in the beginning of this and hit a bit of a plateau in some ways, but I think it's interesting because I think I've made progress in terms of understanding myself mentally. One of the things I mentioned that I think I was in a midlife crisis was me like snapping more, I guess you could say. I wasn't snapping like badly or something like that, but I was getting angry more quickly. And that was, I think, a matter of me being able to be honest more quickly about things that I would just let slide out of just mental disorganization. For example, I mentioned, here's a yawn, there you go. The other video I had mentioned an argument where I had with my wife, a silly one, but I wasn't using my charger, my phone was low on battery, and she asked me, I was like, oh, why is your phone low on battery? And I said, I haven't been charging overnight. And she says, oh, you should have asked me. I've had the charger here this whole time. And normally I would have just responded like, oh, okay, I'll just move on, because there are actually a few dynamics going on at once there. But now I'm more quickly able to be like, well, hold on, you're assuming that the reason I didn't ask you is because I didn't know that you had a charger, and I knew you had a charger this whole time. I did it for, I didn't ask you because I didn't want to lose a charger because we were staying somewhere. So please don't correct me on something I didn't do. Like that type of more quick to realize where like these little things that I know what's going on, and I'm a little bit more annoyed, but as a result coming across as less nice, because like who cares about that? Like why would I have an issue? But more able to organize my thoughts and stuff. I've gotten a little bit better with doing that and not being quite as emotional with it. So it's like more honesty without having to get like pent up emotions come through at the same time. I think I made a little bit of progress there. As far as my day-to-day activities, I've done a few things to try and be more direct with what I want to do and understand more of my reasoning on why I want to do things. I haven't necessarily done anything big enough, though, to make a big change in terms of how I see that. Although understanding why I want things has made me less I've been less controlled by my wants. So for example, I mentioned a big thing is like, being frustrated with not being able to reach like build up as much money as I might want, which I have enough money. I'm not doing pretty well, but things are very expensive these days too. So it's still been frustrating there, but me understanding why I want to do more there. And I think I need to dwell on this a little bit more, but I no longer, beginning of this, I thought more thoughts to say like, hey, I could have, I could have been like one of those like rich entrepreneurs that figured things out and then had a family after. Whereas now I'm more like, yeah, I'm content with my skills just being applied in this order, and I'm instead fully focused on just making like a better life for my kids, that sort of a thing, as opposed to being frustrated that I never had like a phase of my life where I'm like, in like the Mark Cuban mode where he was like 7 years. He never like took a vacation day because he was building a business. I'm content that that's not how things played out for me, and I'm content with who gets the benefit of that. But I still have a strong urge in a lot of ways to do things. It's interesting how much of motivation comes from wanting to do a better job than my parents, partially because not that I'm on bad terms with my parents, but they frustrated me over the last few years as my wife and I have had kids, in terms of pettiness, not being helpful when like my wife has dealt with like basically having HG, which is just like crippling morning sickness for pregnancy, things like that. So yeah, I guess you'd say it's like like I said, I had a pretty good upbringing, but just give one example. So my kids like to sleep with a white noise machine, and it's because we live on a 1-story ranch, and we kind of need that because the house can be loud. And we were visiting my parents. First came up as an issue, like this comes up every time we go there, because we have to stay over when we go to my parents. And my mom was trying to get us to not use our white noise machine because it would cause my sisters and my sisters who are like, we're talking like they're like over 30 now, and her, to not be able to sleep. So the idea being is like, oh, the kids should sacrifice for the adults here because the adults would be uncomfortable. I'd be like, what? And part of her logic was, oh, the kids should learn to be flexible so that they can, as adults, she didn't connect that. She was basically saying they can learn to be different than her kids, or her daughters at least. And then was accused of being, and pushing back on us, being like, what? No, we need to bring this. They're kids, to make it as easy for them to sleep as possible. But as me being selfish and expecting things to people to change for me. So that was that argument. So that, like, little things like this have come up, especially with my mom. Not entirely my dad, but he hasn't been, he's more tries to be non-confrontational and stuff because my mom has a tendency to become a psycho when she argues. So he's still with trying to just not piss her off, I guess. And I really don't want, so I don't think that's always the best way to approach things, but the way my dad is. But yeah, my mom's in this weird, has demons that have been undealt with in her life that I think are causing her to be very self-centered about some of these grandparenting things that should be easier, and doesn't make our life any easier. So I'm frustrated that way. But as a result, I also am more motivated to try and do a better job than my parents in certain ways. Like, for example, I would like want to do a good job parenting, but also want my kids to kind of like want to be around us when they're adults more than I want to be around my parents. So like I want to be like more financially successful for them. I want to be able to be a better host. I want to host people and not have awkward family arguments pop up and family dramas pop up like will happen right now. Yeah, we'll see. I got also, one thing that came from this is by the end of the month, I'm talking with my neighbor about possibly redrawing property lines in the back. They could give us a little bit more land, which could be a good thing to, if I have the target of like, oh, we're going to build out the house a little bit more, or expand on the house, or do something with the land because we need more room for the kids, and well, for the whole family, because we don't have enough bedrooms and stuff like that. We're too big for this house. That would be, for me, a little bit more direction in my life of what to do with myself. if I get less of that feeling where I wake up in the morning being like, I don't really have a point to get up any earlier than the last possible minute. I don't know. Anyone that's been following along with these probably hasn't heard me say anything too unique. I'm still getting to, I'm not done with this thing. I'm still getting to the point where I can kind of wrap things up well. Although, kind of a surprise, my sister, who's now engaged, asked me to officiate her wedding. I was like, oh, wow, I'm going to do that. It's a little bit weird to be asked to do that because I'm Catholic, and her fiance is actually divorced, so it's not really a Catholic wedding. I think he might have been Catholic originally, but I'm not sure. But I'm going to do it, so that's cool. But some of the things, like, really nice that she's asking about it, but she's only offered to babysit the kids twice since now my daughter, my oldest, just turned 8. In 8 years, she offered to babysit twice, and now she's asked me to officiate her wedding. And it's like, yeah, sure. Where have you been? But anyway. All right, day 55 in the books. Let's hope that wasn't too muffled through all this. I feel like I was a little mumbly today.